What's up, guys? I know y'all probably saying, Corin, 2 uploads in 1 week? This is so unlike you. Yeah, I know, but this is a little bit of a different video today. So I don't know if you guys have been in the loop, but over the last 3 days, there's been this one cartoon review that's been making a little wave on the internet. It was put out by this YouTuber named ASK Air, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I've never really heard of this guy. I've never really watched any of his videos, mainly because a lot of the videos that he makes are based on shows that I'm not really that interested in. But his most recent video is a little bit different, because recently he put out a review, if I can even call it that, on the new Fairly OddParents show, Fairly OddParents: A New Wish. And based on the thumbnail alone, you could guess this video caused a little bit of outrage. I mean, I've seen big YouTubers like Cartoonchi and the Alpha J Show give their thoughts on it, and after watching the original video in full, it made me think, yeah, I want to make my own video on it. And it's really because of 3 main reasons. Number 1, I really enjoyed A New Wish. I watched it on a weekly basis as it was coming out, and I actually gave my own review on it, which did pretty well, and a lot of y'all agreed in the comments that A New Wish was actually a really good series. Number 2, this guy makes a lot of claims about reboots and sequel series that I hear commonly when people talk about them, and I wanted to address those points one by one. And number 3, I'm black. And as you could guess by the thumbnail, this guy doesn't understand the concept of race swapping, so I wanted to give my opinions on the things that he said regarding that. But without wasting any more time, let's get into it.
So the other day I had an epiphany. I was scrolling mindlessly through my phone as one does, and I came across this monstrosity, the Fairly OddParents reboot, and it was just as bad as I expected it to be.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Mindless drivel plot lines, flashy art style, and an overt unfaithfulness to the source material.
Okay, so if we're gonna ignore the fact that he picked this image of all images to show what Fairly OddParents: A New Wish looks like, I'll give him some grace. I did say in my review when I first found out what the new art style for the new show was, I was not the biggest fan. But everything he says after that makes me question if he even watched this show at all. Because like I also said in my review, A Fairly OddParents: A New Wish is one of the most visually stunning shows I've watched all year. It only took me 1 minute into episode 1 to realize, man, this show looks amazing. He complains about a new flashy art style, but have you seen the original Fairly OddParents? Compared to other shows that were airing at the time, the Fairly OddParents was extremely flashy, which was kind of the whole purpose of the show. Like, if you ever watched the intro of the Fairly OddParents, the theme song tells it all. Timmy's life was bleak, bland, and miserable, and when Cosmo and Wanda came around, his whole life became colorful. In all honesty, one of my biggest concerns regarding A New Wish was that they weren't going to be able to replicate the feeling of the original Fairly OddParents when the fairies came around. I was hoping that the show wasn't going to be bleak and grim and was actually going to be able to replicate that colorful, magical feeling of the original series. And it would only take a couple minutes for somebody who's a fan of the original Fairly OddParents to see that A New Wish hit it on the mark. So I don't really know what the guy's complaining about. He also says that A New Wish had derivative plots and was unfaithful to the original source material, which really makes me question, bro, did you actually watch this show? Because while the first half of A New Wish was episodic and didn't have an overarching plot, these weren't just pointless episodes. These episodes were introducing you to the new characters, letting you get to know their personalities, and introducing you to the new world of the new show. You know, basic things you should do when you're trying to tell a new story. And I don't even know how someone could sit up here in good faith and say that A New Wish is unfaithful to the original source material when it was literally being praised for being one of the most faithful sequel series to come out in the last couple years. The second half of the season literally did nothing but expand upon the good and fix problems from the original series.
And I realize, these phenomena are not unique to the Fairly OddParents. These symptoms carry on to many remakes and reboots that have sprouted from Hollywood in the last few years, whether it's animated or live action, movie or TV show. And if this were just a one-off thing in media, I probably wouldn't be making this video. But this is a repeated cancer that is spreading to more and more properties, and is only destructive in nature. And so I gotta take the mantle and expose just what makes these properties so inherently bad.
Okay, this is genuinely gonna make me mad because I don't know why he's trying to sit up here and phrase this as if there's a problem in the industry when it comes to reboots and sequel series that everybody notices but nobody wants to speak about, and he's the one brave soul that's gonna put it on the forefront. Because if I'm being honest, the argument he's using is the same dishonest argument that everyone uses when people talk about reboots and remakes, and that's the argument that they're all trash. Because in his video he goes on to use examples like Teen Titans Go, Powerpuff Girls 2016, and Ben 10 2016. And yes, if you use those examples, they do fit the narrative that modern day reboots are trash. But the problem is, when people bring up this argument, they always talk about the negative side, but just conveniently leave out the positive side. Because have we gotten terrible reboots over the years? Yes, of course. But acting like we haven't also got amazing ones over the years is just him trying to push a narrative. Especially when it's easily provable that we have gotten good reboots and remakes. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off was very well received and was one of the best shows to come out in 2013. Almost everyone who has ever talked about it has expressed how much they love Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. I wasn't even a big Scooby-Doo fan growing up and I loved this show. Many people think DuckTales 2017 is one of the best shows to come out of Disney from their golden age of cartoons. People love Thundercats 2011, the only reason that show ended was because of low toy sales. For my anime fans, everybody knows that Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is 10 times better than the original Fullmetal Alchemist. Oh, and probably the funniest example I can give you, he uses Teen Titans Go as a way to say that reboots and remakes are trash. But something a lot of you might not know is that the original Teen Titans that everybody talks about, the one that came out in 2003, that's actually a reboot. The first Teen Titans cartoon came out in 1967, and I even talked about it in the video where I said that Regular Show was coming back with a new series. A few people in my community tab went on to say, oh man, they're gonna ruin it because whenever you bring back a series, they always ruin it. And I had to use Adventure Time Fiona and Cake as an example, a show that literally came out last year and is a continuation of Adventure Time and was regarded as one of the best shows of 2013.
Because instead of just telling unfunny stories, modern reboots, especially in the animated realm, aim to purposely disrespect the original vision. Starting off with the fact that the original creators don't want this kind of stuff, almost ever. We've all heard of how Steven Hillenburg never really wanted a reboot of SpongeBob, but ever since his late passing, Nick has capitalized on 2 already, with both thankfully pulling in little to no ratings.
Oh, I guess I should probably say this too because I've kind of been letting him slide throughout the video, but it's really clear that he doesn't know what a reboot and a remake is. Because A Fairly OddParents A New Wish is neither one of those. It is a continuation, it is a sequel series. Everything from the original series is canon in A New Wish and it doesn't change anything lore wise, so I don't really know why he keeps referring to it as a reboot. Now regarding his statements around Steven Hillenburg, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I was the biggest SpongeBob fan, but I do find it disgusting him using a dead man to try to fit a narrative. Because there is no proof whatsoever of Steven Hillenburg ever saying in the media or online that he doesn't want a SpongeBob spinoff. You would think if he was so against a SpongeBob spinoff like this guy tried to say in the video, then there would actually be evidence of him saying, I do not want this. But no, this has been a theory that has been running wild since 2018. But that's all it is, it's a theory. Because there is no way to actually prove that he did not want to see a SpongeBob spinoff. The only bit of quote-unquote evidence that people that push this narrative use is an interview back from 2009. In the interview, Hillenburg was asked, have you thought of spinoffs featuring some other characters? And Hillenburg's response was, this show is about SpongeBob, he's the core element. Patrick by himself might be a bit too much, so I don't see any spinoffs. That's it, that's the whole quote. He never said anything about he would never do a spinoff. He just said he doesn't see it happening. And the funny thing is, if you listen to a lot of interviews with the creators of these shows, that's how a lot of them talk. It's very rare that you hear a creator actively just shut down something. But do you want to know why this interview is a terrible way to try to say that Steven Hillenburg didn't want a SpongeBob spinoff? Because in the very next question, he was asked, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie was well received, is there any room for another feature? And Hillenburg's response was, personally, I like short form and have no interest in doing another movie. The strength of SpongeBob is its simplicity. Well, do you know who co-wrote the second SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water? Steven Hillenburg. So it's very obvious that going off an interview from almost 2 decades ago isn't the proof that so many people think it is. That's why when this guy brings up Steven Hillenburg's death and talks about how he didn't want a SpongeBob spinoff, he can't actually show any proof in his video other than a tweet from somebody who isn't Hillenburg himself saying that he wouldn't have want this. It's also so comical to me that this guy tries to say that creators almost never want to do reboots or continuations on their series. And then he shows this picture and I'm literally looking at creators who have said and done otherwise. Rebecca Sugar has been very vocal, especially over the last 2 years, saying that she would bring back Steven Universe if given the chance. It was literally announced a couple months ago that JG Quintel is working with Cartoon Network to do a new regular show series. Pendleton Ward quite literally stepped down as showrunner of Adventure Time and let other people run the show because he said it was affecting his quality of life, and then allowed Cartoon Network to do a continuation series with Adventure Time Fiona and Cake. And Butch Hartman literally has executive producer credits on Fairly OddParents A New Wish. Oh, and not to even mention, Brian Lee O'Malley, the guy who wrote Scott Pilgrim, said the only way he would do a Scott Pilgrim show is if he basically did a reboot of the original script. And yes, are there some creators that don't want anyone to touch their original work and they want it to stay exactly the same as how they made it? Absolutely, but that is not every creator. So I don't understand how this guy's trying to sit up here and advocate for creators who have openly said that they want the opposite of what he's trying to argue.
I feel like everything I'm saying only relates to reboots post 2010.
I swear to God, bro, you can't make this up. Mystery Incorporated, She-Ra, The Looney Tunes Show, Voltron, Thundercats, Animaniacs. Bro, what are we even talking about right now?
Because prior to that, most reiterations weren't like this. Most were better than the originals, and actually kept gritty tones with cool brooding art styles.
See, this goes back to what I was saying when I said this guy doesn't know what a reboot and a remake is. This dude showed Ben 10 Alien Force. That's literally a continuation series. Does this guy think that every season of the original Ben 10 was a reboot?
It just makes you ask, why? Not to mention how they unnecessarily have to, all of a sudden, change everything about the show. I mean, no one wants to talk about it, but the current bandwagon is the whole race swapping thing they'll have to do with animated characters. April O'Neil, Timmy Turner.
He didn't watch the show. You're not gonna make me believe he watched the show. He did not sit down and watch Fairly OddParents: A New Wish. Hazel is not a race swap for Timmy. I don't even think he understands what a race swap is. Hazel and Timmy are two completely different characters, which completely eliminates the idea of a race swap. They have different personalities, different upbringings, different problems. There is no way anyone who genuinely watched this show could get up here and say that Hazel is just a race swap or a black version of Timmy. On top of that, he says race swap like Timmy's not in the show. Timmy is in the show, he just hasn't been shown yet. But Timmy was mentioned in like 5 different episodes. Like, don't get me wrong, I am not a fan of race swapping just for the sake of diversity. If a character has notoriously been one race throughout their entire tenure and then one day they just choose to make him another race, that's kind of crazy to me. But to call the lead character of the new show a race swap because they're not Timmy Turner is insane. But to be honest, I stopped taking everything he was saying serious 2 minutes in, and I think everything he's saying now is just trolling.
Or no, is it just a bunch of false outrage for a non-issue no one genuinely cares about? When everything is racial, that's the only thing I can see when watching. I never saw Blade as a black character, or Cyborg, or Gerald, or Static Shock.
Bro, come on, you can't be serious. This dude really just said when everything's racial, that's all he can see, but then turned around 5 seconds later and said he never saw Blade as a black character. Blade, he never saw Blade as a black character. What the hell were you watching? And it's like this dude just googled popular black characters, but I guess he didn't Google hard enough because the dude said Static Shock. That's the name of the show. The superhero's name is Static. And then on top of that, how can you genuinely sit up here and say you loved some of these characters on one hand and then on the other hand say you never saw them as black, when many black characters, including the ones that you listed, all use race and racism as a component to storytelling? One of the most well-known Static Shock episodes is the episode with Richie's racist dad. I guess you just didn't see Static as black during none of that, huh?
A lot of my favorite characters are people of various ethnicities and racial tones. The black female Timmy Turner is clearly just a cheap attempt to reboot this property without any other significant pitches for change. I mean, for the diversity folks, there must be a point where this hurts the cause more than it helps it. And this video isn't just about the new race swapping phenomenon, but it's an extremely prevalent symptom of a larger issue, which ties into the lack of respect for staying faithful to the original property. Maybe Butch Hartman wants Timmy to be race and gender swapped, which is why he has absolutely no direct involvement in the creative department of the project. I find that unlikely. It's absolutely insulting to ruin a person's original vision of a character just because people want to see themselves on screen.
Hey everybody, I am so thrilled I can finally talk about this. We're making a brand new Fairly OddParents animated series, and it looks like this. It is called A Brand New Wish, and it's going to premiere this spring with the original voice actors who play Cosmo and Wanda, Darren Norris and Suzanne Blakesley. It's going to premiere on Netflix and Nickelodeon. I couldn't be more thrilled. When they first told me they wanted to do this and they presented these designs to me, I was really excited because not only will it have the same charm and excitement and flair of the original series, it's going to look a little different, but I really love these character designs. I think they're super appealing. What do you guys think? Are you excited about this? Let me know. I think it's abracadabra.
Come on, man, this is too easy. It's getting too easy. If this dude did just a little bit of research, he would see that 99% of the things that he said in this video are completely false. On top of this, like I said before, Butch Hartman has executive producer credits on A New Wish. Does he think they just slapped his name on there without his knowledge and then proceeded to make a whole new show from the franchise that he made? You know what I noticed? This is almost a 7-minute video, and throughout this entire video, this dude hasn't made a single critique about Fairly OddParents: A New Wish. And I do mean a genuine in-depth critique other than the fact he doesn't like the quote-unquote black female race swap Timmy Turner. And for the life of me, I can't understand why this would be a video that he would make and actually post. Because if a show is bad, I'm all for people expressing their disappointment or dissatisfaction with the show. As people that review shows, that's kind of like the whole gig. But if your only criticism comes down to race, is that an actual critique or is that just something that you need to look inside for? Because I'm still waiting to hear a genuine valid critique about the show. He talked about derivative plots, colorful art styles, and unimportant episodes, but he hasn't expanded on any of that. At least not in regards to A New Wish. He also acts like Hazel being black is the selling point for A New Wish, and acts like the writers are lazy and didn't actually take the time to write a good character that can lead a series. But I said it in my review of A New Wish and I'll say it again, Hazel is a great main character. She's a completely different personality from Timmy, which sets up new dynamics between characters, new problems, and new wishes. On top of that, because she's a completely different personality from Timmy, the lessons that she learns throughout the show are completely different from the ones that Timmy was learning. On top of that, Hazel has a completely different living situation from Timmy, and just overall, she is completely different from Timmy. They are not the same in any way, shape, or form. And he's really trying to push this narrative that Hazel being black is the selling point for A New Wish, which is absolutely insane because part of the reason why A New Wish got as popular as it did out of nowhere is because of the character Perry. I swear, after the episode where he first made his appearance, that was all I was seeing on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I literally made a TikTok when that episode first came out and it has over 4 million views. And there were so many people in the comments talking about how they loved The New Wish, how they liked the character designs, how they liked it way more than anything that was coming out of the Fairly OddParents over the last couple years. But do you know what was the one thing I didn't hear anyone talking about or criticizing? The fact that Hazel is black. In fact, I've actually seen people give Hazel praise as a character. And unlike this dude would want you to believe, it's not because she's black, it's because she's actually a well-written character. On top of that, people also love the new character Dev Dimmadome. Many people really enjoyed the fact that they were able to take a character that wasn't that big of a deal in the original series and make his son one of the best and most well-written characters in the entire show.
People just disagree with this because it's the right thing to say or whatever, but most people would probably agree with these common sense points deep down. When a character is good, race shouldn't matter, nor should the new spin you put on the character, whether it's a gimmicky change in the age, the gender, the design more broadly, or their persona and attitude in a larger sense.
Bro, are we living in the Twilight Zone? This dude literally just said if a character is good then race shouldn't matter, but proceeded to make a 7-minute video hating on the main character because she's black. This video quickly shifted away from being why Fairly OddParents and New Wish is a bad show to being about race swapping, even though Fairly OddParents and New Wish has no race swapping in it. It is an objectively good show with positive reviews and positive feedback. Even before the show came out and it was receiving a bunch of hate, it wasn't because the main character was black, it was because people didn't want to see the Fairly OddParents dig itself down a deeper hole. Because if you remember, before A New Wish came out, the Fairly OddParents was actually coming off an actual trash reboot with the Fairly OddParents Fairly Odder, which if he actually wanted to genuinely critique any Fairly OddParents reboot, this would have been the show to critique. But ever since A New Wish came out, the reviews have only gotten higher and higher. And look, I'll be the first one to tell you, this show isn't perfect by any means. Nobody is saying this show is the greatest thing to ever touch our screens. And the funny thing is, if this guy really genuinely didn't like Fairly OddParents and New Wish and actually watched the show all the way through, there were things that he could have talked about and criticized. But instead, he chose to go on a 7-minute yap sesh about race swapping. Mind you, about a show that doesn't even have race swapping in it. And I guess the part that makes me so frustrated when it comes to this is animation is the art form that I really enjoy. It's an art form that I've always loved since I was a kid, and as I got older, my passion for it only grew more and more. And now that I'm actually learning how to do it, I and anyone else who's ever animated before or has tried to can tell you, animation is hard. It's hard and it takes a lot of work, especially at the level to produce a TV show or a movie. And let's be real, there are a lot of bad animated projects out there, and a lot of them deserve criticism. But when you have a project that is objectively good and has received a majority of praise, and you have some guy come online and say basically that the show is bad because of the color of the main character's skin, I swear that feels like a slap in the face for anyone who's a fan of animation.
Anyway, can't wait to see a Static Shock or Spawn movie, and while they're at it, it wouldn't hurt to race swap one more movie, would it?
I'm genuinely done. I can't do this anymore. Watching that full video genuinely made my brain hurt. But look, I'm gonna catch y'all guys on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. And until then, it's been your boy CornXV, and I'm off this.
Up in this tank, yeah, it's over. Turn on bus mask up like coke. Pull up in Rovers, it's over. Bitch, I'm Cheese Sosa, this coke. Llama, it can't want no hoes. Bottle, it can't let me pour. High as fun, just like a float. Wanna glow up, let me show